You millennials and Gen Z, I know y'all catch a lot of flack from us older generations about not knowing much. Gen X in my case, and baby boomers. I want to say right off, those of you that I know personally and have worked with, have met, and so forth, and exceptions to everything, but as a rule, your generations, y'all are exceptionally smart, quick-witted, and just have so much potential. But I do agree y'all don't know very much. Okay, now I'm sure a lot of you disagree with me. And okay, that's fine. But let's just say for just a moment, I'm right. Okay, the question then is, why don't y'all know very much? I've already said y'all are extremely smart and quick-witted and so forth. So why is it y'all don't know much? Well, I think it's because y'all are so poorly educated. And that is the biggest problem your generations are facing right there. That's it. You were so poorly educated. And it was not your fault. That was the fault of the generations that came before you, Gen X and baby boomers. It was our job to educate y'all. We didn't do a good job at it. Every generation complains about the generations that come after it. They don't know as much. They don't work as hard. They don't do it like we used to do it. And we all know that. And it's gone on that way forever. There are writings from ancient Rome where people were complaining about the generations that came along behind it. What if it's true? I'm starting to think it might be in a lot of cases. And for declining civilizations. And I think that's why the civilizations decline. Okay, and it'd be easy to happen. I mean, if you've got a generation that they're not educated very well. Okay, well, they're the ones educating the next generation. Okay, so they don't do quite as good of a job of educating them, so now that generation's even worse off. And then they've got to educate the next one and so forth. So each generation is educated worse and worse and worse until a civilization collapses. Okay, so right now, Western nations, the United States, we have become completely dependent upon our educational systems to educate the next generations. Okay, so I went through that system, the baby boomers, you millennials and Gen Z. Well, that system's broken now. I mean, it's doing such a pitiful job educating y'all that it's just sad. And it wasn't doing a great job for my generation. Okay, and for any of you Gen Xers and baby boomers watching this, just to let y'all know how bad we screwed over Gen Z and the millennials on education. Okay, for myself, I went back to school as an adult to get an engineering degree. Okay, so September 11th, 2001, when the World Trade Center was attacked and Pentagon, I was actually in class that morning. Anyway, we got out and returned to class a few days later, and I was in a sociology class. General Ed needed it for elective or something. And anyway, we were in class, and there were a few of us older students in there, but overwhelming majority were millennials. Okay, well, the professor, he compared the attacks on September the 11th to Pearl Harbor. One girl raised her hand in the class and she asked, well, what was Pearl Harbor? Okay, and a few of us were shaking our heads in disbelief that she didn't know, including the professor. All right, this is something I never will forget. He turned pale all of a sudden because he realized almost all of the students in that class were staring at him, waiting on him to answer the question because they didn't know. All right, and then he stopped and he said, raise your hand if you know what the attack on Pearl Harbor was. 3 or 4 of us in the class raised our hand. This is a class of about 30 or 40 students. Okay, so they didn't know, and it's because we didn't teach them, and that's on us. And For any of you Gen Z or millennials watching this right now that don't know what Pearl Harbor was, that was December the 7th, 1941. That was the day the Japanese attacked the U.S. naval base in Hawaii. Okay, that was one of the most important days in world history. That was the day the United States entered World War II. Extremely important. Okay, well, y'all should know this. And if you don't, well, that's because you weren't taught it. Okay, and the importance of you knowing that. Okay, well, if you don't know about Pearl Harbor, then you probably don't know about World War II. If you don't know about World War II, well, you don't know about the 20th century. Okay, and that's very recent history. If you don't know about recent history, then you probably don't know about older history or ancient history. Okay, well, if you don't know history, you can be manipulated into believing all sorts of stuff. Okay, if you don't know history, 20th century history, recent, you don't know that, then you don't know that the great plague on humanity during the 20th century was communism. Fascism was bad, but communism was even worse than that. And that's saying something. All right, so you could be manipulated into thinking, oh, communism's good. Yeah, right. Okay. And the people now that are saying communism's good, is it they don't know no better because they were so poorly educated? Or are they just manipulating whoever they can? Or I don't know, but tens of millions of people died under communism. It's that bad. Anyway, okay, so we've got this cycle now of just people being, education just being worse and worse and worse, and each generation being more poorly educated. And maybe part of this is due to technology. There's so much technology, or has been so many technological advances since, especially the early 20th century. Each new generation has focused on learning the new technologies, and the old knowledge was just not passed on to them adequately. I think that's part of it. Part of it, I think, is our educational system's just fundamentally broken. I mean, my generation, your generations, we were educated to do well on test scores. Okay, what's that got to do with anything? All right, and for myself, I'm interested in history, and not just general knowledge on history, which I think is very important to know, but how did they do things in the past? Okay, so craftsmanship. I think the early 20th century was the height of craftsmanship in the United States and probably all Western nations. So woodworking and architecture and things like that. After World War II, it just seemed to decline rapidly. I think, again, back to technology. We were so focused on the new technologies and applying that we got away from the basics and the fundamentals. Okay, so I've been going back and reading various books from that time period and realizing how much knowledge we've lost since then. Okay, like the ability to take simple tools and just make things flat, square, straight, round, and have the surface finish we want. Okay, well, that might not sound important, but that is important. Okay, Gen Z, millennials, a lot of you are talking about just how outrageously expensive homes are. Okay, and they are now. There's a lot of reasons for that, back to us being poorly educated. But so we let the government and central banks do some really stupid stuff to screw us all over, but another topic. Okay, well, what I said about making things flat, square, straight, round, and right surface finish, if you can do that, you can go build a house. I mean, those are the basic fundamental things right there that humans have struggled with since as far back as you want to go. The Great Pyramids in Egypt, what's so amazing about them is how the blocks were so flat, square, straight, round, and right surface finish. I mean, why they're so amazing. The ancient temples in Greece and Rome, and the materials are important, but the biggest thing is that they could line all that up. And anyway, so those fundamental basic things, and they're not passed on now. I mean, when you go work in industry, for what few manufacturing jobs are left, you're going to learn that stuff then, because I don't care what you make. If it's a gasoline engine for a car, yeah, the horror, carbon, Anyway, that's how you make a good engine. You make the cylinders round, and you get the surface finish right, and you get the geometry correct on the gears, and everything has to be flat and square and straight and all that good stuff. And electric cars the same way. Okay, and the reason I said that about the horror of carbon and so forth is because I just find it so ironic that so many of you have been manipulated into believing that, we're going with all electric cars and zero carbon and all that. And it's not possible. Not right now. It's physically absolutely not possible. It cannot be done. I don't care how bad somebody in the government wants it to happen. It is physically not possible. We don't have the electric grid infrastructure to charge all those cars. I mean, we got California right now going through brownouts in the summer where they're cutting back on electricity because it's too hot and they don't want things shorting out and starting forest fires. And we had blackouts last year in Texas because of the strain on the electrical grid. And now imagine if everybody had an electric car that they were plugging in. Not to mention, we simply don't have the materials to do that. We don't have enough copper, raw copper, to build electric cars to go all electric right now. And we won't have it for the foreseeable future. And it will be even worse right now with Russia in the shape it's in, because so many of the raw materials that the world uses, especially for green technology, was coming from Russia. Anyway, okay, that whole thinking we could go green, that put Germany in a really bad spot. And I don't know how many of you listen to Peter Zeihan. He has some interesting things to say. And if what he says is true, Germany's about to stop being a modern economy. What made their economy work was cheap natural gas from Russia. That's what their whole economy was based on, essentially. That's gone. They're no longer going to be a modern economy. They've gone back to burning really poor, very poor quality coal to generate electricity. Okay, well, that's because they went down a road of utter stupidity trying to go green. Solar doesn't work in places that doesn't get much sun. It doesn't work in places without a lot of wind. And it barely works in those places. Anyway, how did we get to this point? Okay, and this is the really important part for you, Millennials and Gen Z. How do you turn this around? Because that's the really huge challenge I see facing y'all right now. Is I don't know that it's possible for you to turn this around. Way back in the day when the internet was just first becoming mainstream, we all recognized the significance that it would play in the future. We didn't know exactly how, but we knew this was big. The information age. Suddenly we could go find information on just about anything. Okay, and search back then was a little different. You typed in something and you might have to go through 5 pages of results to find what you were looking for, but generally you could find it. And on obscure things that you would never think about. How to restore a Stanley hand plane from 1921. Okay, and there would be good information there. And if you really got onto an obscure topic, you would go to a forum where people were discussing this, and generally there were some knowledgeable people on forums that could at least point you in the right direction, give you a starting point. Okay, well, since then the internet's changed. As a matter of fact, the internet right now is broken. And If you don't know what I'm talking about, go just type into a search on why is the internet broken or why is internet search broken. Okay, right now I could go and I could do a search for repairing old, antique, antiquated wooden windows. Okay, and I would get result after result after result of new windows for sale. There would be Home Depot, new windows, replacement windows. There would be all these manufacturers. Now, there would be a couple of articles in there on old windows and how to restore them, but almost everything would be replacement windows. And I just went through this, that's why I know. Okay, so now when you search for something, it's very difficult to find information now. All right, everything now is geared to sell us something. Marketing. All right, and as to why the internet's broke, well, there's all kinds of reasons. Search engine optimization, where people that have whatever site, they're building their sites specifically to rank well in search results. Okay, and then there's the paying Google to put your results up here ahead of other people's, and there's all kinds of reasons for it being broken now. Almost no competition in search engines. YouTube's broken now on the search engine. Go search for something obscure right now. All right, and what you're going to get is you're going to get a few results that might be related to what you're looking for, and then you're going to get some results that have absolutely nothing to do with what you're looking for, because the algorithm thought, well, hey, you might like this, and then you're going to get some more results eventually that probably don't have anything to do with what you're looking for. Okay, if it's something obscure. Now, if it's something right now, modern, popular, and hot topic, okay, you probably find something for it. And YouTube's becoming pay to play also. So you finding information from a little channel like this, well, that's going to be less and less likely going forward. You're going to see results from Fox News or MSNBC or the big players. Mainstream media, if you want news. Okay, and they're paying YouTube. Hey, YouTube's there to make money. I'm not faulting YouTube. But if everything's about making money, it's not about, people finding the information you're looking for. And we're not even going to start on Google and YouTube manipulating the search results so that you don't find certain information. A lot of that happening. But, all right, well, if you can't find information, how are you going to actually learn history? I mean, at least back in the day, there were things, I could go on the internet, I could watch really good videos on history, and the History Channel used to show history videos. I know that's hard to believe. TLC, I don't even know if it still exists, but TLC stands for the Learning Channel. You wouldn't have guessed that, would you? They used to show educational stuff. Okay, well now it's entertainment. MTV used to show music videos. I don't know what it turned into. It wasn't music videos. Okay, it was all about entertainment now. Just getting as many people to watch so that whatever company can make as much money as possible, period. Okay, so the quality of the information that is out there is going down. The ability to find good information is going down. It's getting worse. Okay, so now you have people coming along that are teaching history that has nothing to do with history, and it's actually becoming part of the curriculum for a lot of schools. All right, so this nonsense is being taught. However, would you ever know that was nonsense? Okay, and I'm talking about stuff that, I'm not talking about we're, arguing over, whether they dotted all their I's and crossed their T's, and maybe they got a date wrong or something in what they're saying. What they're saying is just complete made up utter nonsense that never happened. That's great. Let's teach that. How would you know? Okay, I know because I learned history, but they don't teach history anymore. All right, so for you Gen Z and millennials, you're at the mercy of the world, and I don't know how you're ever going to figure that out. You can go back to original sources, and I can't even begin to say how valuable that is to go back to the original sources. Okay, don't read what somebody said about Thomas Jefferson. Go read what Thomas Jefferson wrote. Unfortunately, though, there's so much information that you'd have to go through to even begin to go back to original sources for so many things that, it's almost impossible. So I don't know what you do. I don't know if there's any way for y'all to make up for how poorly you were educated. I don't know if there's any way to prevent from being even more poorly educated going forward. So that's where we're at, and I'm sorry, but I can't tell you how to fix this. I don't know, I don't think anybody does, but this is the challenge for your generations, is to figure out how to break this cycle and how to educate yourselves better. Okay, and if you don't get this right, okay, the generations coming along behind you, they're going to be even more poorly educated than yourselves, and eventually the whole thing is going to fall apart. All right, right now, all right, our democracy is alive and well. We've got a nation full of people that can't even manage basic finances, electing people that can't manage basic finances and sending them to Congress, where now we've got, what, $33 trillion debt. Guess who's going to have to pay that back? Your generations. Congratulations. Eventually, everybody keeps kicking the can down the road. Well, eventually we're going to run out of road. And it's getting close to the end of it now, so this is a big problem. And this is probably even a bigger problem, and this is something I hate I didn't learn sooner myself. But again, I'm poorly educated too. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Y'all weren't taught that one. So if you do learn that one, that'll take care of a lot of the rest. If you don't, y'all are screwed. That's where you're at right now. I hate it, but God bless, and hey, have the best day you can after getting such bad news. Hey, future's full of opportunities for you. How about that? There's so much low-hanging fruit for y'all to go fix. There you go. God bless. Have a good day.